What a perfect song. Really nice. Adam, you said that's an original. Penned by? Nice. Did I say we had genius in the house? This is me going out on a limb. Literally. The title of my talk, What is Seeking to Emerge? I was very intentional and have been aware of this title for as many weeks as, I don't know how many weeks in advance I was required to submit it. And I decided how best to teach or present or delve into what is seeking to emerge. And maybe you just kicked it off perfectly, that this is all a mystery. And in this great mystery, either we step into a place where we trust that all of our needs are met, or we try and run around and figure out what isn't met and how to get it met now, according to my limited little understanding of what this might be. So this mystery, the mystery has been intriguing me. And I was sharing with somebody about this talk, and they said, well, what are you going to speak about? And I said, well, I have my title. And she said, well, what does that mean? And I said, I am deliberately choosing to not outline content. And she said, well, what does that mean? And I said, I'm choosing to deliberately not outline content. Now, you have to imagine what that's been like for these past few weeks. How often I have thought of, when I've read a piece of inspirational something, oh, I could use that in my talk. No, I can't. You're not outlining content, Kelli. And she said, well, what is the outcome that you're hoping for? I said, I don't know. Well, what do you want the end result to be? I have no idea. I have no idea what I need potentially in this moment, and I certainly don't know what anybody else needs here. But I tell you what, I've got a part of me that likes to believe I know. There's a part of me that likes to believe that I could say something inspiring, uplifting, so transformationally transformational that everybody would leave here and praise my name and say, that Kelli, she's an awesome speaker. She really moved me today. There's that part of me that really wants that wants to commit to the performance and be the reason why somebody would have shifted. And the more I sat with that, the more I came to understand that that's the mystery. That it's never me, it's never us, that we have a label, Adam, Tyler, Margie, Kelli, Sharon, whoever, we have a title, and we show up in these individual bodies, and we show up in these individual ways, and we have these gifts and talents, but it is fundamentally not the I that we believe it is, but it is the version that God has chosen to show up as, and I'm finally starting to get a glimpse of that. Because if I go to a place of I tend to go to everything that I've come to believe to be true about me, and it's all based in my past. And it's a story that I've told myself, or I've been told, and it's a story that's been handed down to me through generations. And it's a story that I see reflected in my mother and my grandmother and my father and my father's side of the family. But very little of that story has to do with my potential. And unless I'm willing to sit with the uncomfortable unknowing, that I don't know what is seeking to emerge? How could I possibly know? If I knew, I would have been 3 steps ahead and I would have finished it on Tuesday. If I knew what was seeking to emerge through me in my life, I would have already taken care of it. And it would have been a far lesser expression than it is now. Because I would have found a way to limit myself. But when something new shows up as an opportunity, and oftentimes that first reaction is, I can't do that. No, too much. I got enough on my plate. But then if I sit with it and think, well, maybe I could do something. Maybe I can't do all of it, but I can do something. And then I recognize God just delivered an opportunity to me. But I had to be open. We have to be open. We have to be willing to sit sometimes. We have to be willing to unpack our stuff, and that's what I'm realizing is just how much stuff I have to unpack. How many stories of limitation. In the Course of Miracles this morning, we sort of ended with the question of, how powerful do you want to be? How much do you want to experience? What crazy ride are you willing to take with God? And I'm finding more and more that it takes an incredible amount of trust. And it requires me to give up any sense of thinking I know. I don't. I oftentimes don't know. And I find that is serving me well, especially as I'm needing to show up for my daughters in different ways at this moment. And I think they get really frustrated with me because they're calling me thinking I should know. And having to tell them, well, I don't know. Or thinking I do know, and then they don't like my answer. And they're like, yeah, we don't like that answer. That's not the answer we were wanting to hear. And I'm like, well, that's all I got for you. Sorry. And then I have to hang up the phone. And at that moment, I have a choice to make. I have a choice to make. Because the old me, the me of a year ago or of 6 months ago would go into, I need to predict. I need to control this situation. I need to figure out how to fix this. I need to know how to make them feel better. Because I don't like feeling their discomfort. Because there's a part of me that says, you must not have been a good mother if your children are uncomfortable. I mean, that's how messed up our stories are, people. Literally. I mean, we got some messed up stories. Last week, I was at my aunt's 75th birthday party. I flew out to Spokane, Washington with my mom. And I was staying at my uncle's house with my other uncle and aunt. And so during the day, it would be my mother and her 2 brothers and one of the brothers' wives hanging out. And on Saturday, the day of the party, I got sick. And it was sick enough to keep me in bed. I couldn't go to the party. And I've got these 4 family members running around. And I finally said, do you know what's worse, being sick at somebody else's house when you're not in your own home, in your own bed? And they said, no, what? I said, to have 4 Grabensteins running around trying to figure out how to make you feel better because they're uncomfortable with your illness. I was like, I need you all to leave me alone. I am not dying. I don't know what it is. it'll pass. But how often do we run around trying to force a particular circumstance because we can't sit with the discomfort of not knowing how something's going to turn out, or thinking that we know how it should turn out. It should turn out a certain way. This moment should look differently than it does. I find myself wanting feedback now. What is seeking to emerge? It's a powerful question, and I believe one that deserves some reverence, deserves time, deserves attention. And I speak for me personally because it is a question that forces me to reckon my relationship with God. The word emerge from the Latin context means to bring to light, to be made known. This relationship with God, if I trust it fully, is that very thing that allows me to surrender everything and say, okay, I don't know what needs to be, what is coming in, what is seeking more light in me, which part of me is seeking more light. And as I say this, the answer that I just got is, Kelli, you don't know yet? It's whenever your ego starts going crazy. That's what's seeking to be brought to light, to be able to not even dismantle it, but to understand that these things that I use for protection and the need to be right is a form of protection. The need to be able to say the right thing, or to that thing that is seeking validation from the outer world. When I can surrender that and know that it is in God that I am completely invulnerable, nothing can harm me. And that is a movement from fear. We talked about it this morning in Course of Miracles, the movement from fear to love. And how do I respond when I make that shift, that internal shift? And what I've noticed is that internal shift, I usually have to start with forgiving myself and embracing that confused part of me, that little kid, that inner child self that absorbed so much, so many stories. It's like that little kid is still running around carrying carrying the baggage of all of these stories. And I have to be the one to invite myself to set them down. Hey, Kelli, what if all your needs were met right now? Eckhart Tolle talks about the difference between your life and your life situation. And the life situation is all the stuff that pulls you out of the moment of now. The distractions of everything, all of your stories from the past, or jumping into the future, into the fix-it problem solving. Thank you, Carla. I'm on fire today. And that was such a helpful distinction to me. It says, everybody always there's always a life situation going on. But your life is always ever unfolding only right now. And when you ask yourself the question, is there a need that isn't met right now? There might be. And then the realization that if I do have a need, I have everything to meet that need. It's already there. What is it? What is it that would help me meet this need? Is it imagination? Wisdom? We have these beautiful 12 powers. How often do we complicate it? And what if we just stopped for a moment and understood that this mystery is really about our willingness to surrender in this moment fully, to surrender our story, to surrender a sense of needing to protect ourselves, to be able to surrender that we have all the answers, to surrender that we're supposed to do everything on our own, that we can't ask for help, that we're not here to receive. And what if it really was very, very simple? That God is simply seeking a relationship with us, but God needs us to turn and say yes. Or I should say, would like us to turn and say yes. And when I say turn and say yes, to me that's an inward turning. And what am I turning into? God is myself. Today is the day, the celebration, the Feast of Ascension, the day where Jesus left the earthly plane and ascended into heaven. And the homily that I listened to this morning, even Father Fisher, he was in this, he was just like, there's something that happened. There was a physical transcendence. There was something that happened in that process where Jesus transcended out of the physical into the spiritual, and therefore made it possible for his apostles to have all of the same power. And I thought this was so interesting because the apostles, one of them asked, well, is today the day that you're going to restore Israel to its right and proper place? Still believing that that's the whole purpose as to why Jesus came. And Jesus said, that is not for you to know, nor is the timing for you to know. You are to know that today is the day that you receive power. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And so I guess that's the end result of this talk, my message. What it means to each and every one of you, I don't know, but I do know that it's always beneficial when we can take things a little bit deeper. So I invite all of us now, if you choose and if it's comfortable for you, to close your eyes, to get comfortable in your chair. to utilize this time in this space and the music that Tyler provides for us. And to give yourself the freedom to not have to think about anything in particular, to not have to come up with any answers, but to just feel. When you surrender, when each of us surrenders, and that begins with the physical release of tension. So just notice a breath. Notice the inhale. And notice how the body automatically and naturally wants to just let go on the exhale. And if you set aside any burden, mental, physical, emotional burden that you felt you've been carrying, if you chose to let it be, and you arrived fully in this moment, and you just became aware of presence, and maybe ask the question, what is seeking to emerge in my life, in me? If I am an expression of the divine, seeking to know itself better, what does that next unfolding of potential look like? Maybe you know exactly what that is right now. Maybe you have no idea. The uncertainty is part of the mystery. So we come together in community. We ask for prayer so that others can support us, so that we can support others, so that we can bring into light and make known a deeper sense of God. A deeper sense of trust. A deeper sense of faith. What does it feel like to be invulnerable? Maybe a new definition of invulnerable. No need for protection. A deep sense of peace. What does that feel like? Perhaps you allow yourself to sit with this question, to have the courage and the audacity to sit with these questions. It's a bold statement to reveal ourselves as expressions of God. I honor the courage it takes. And remind you that we are among friends. And we are all willing to hold the highest watch because we know of the benefit that it provides, not just for us, not just for this church, but for the unfoldment of humanity. And so as we bring this time to close, I just offer a deep sense of gratitude and appreciation for this time of prayer, for this community, for this light opening that this church has been in my life. And so I say thank you, God, and amen.